Good afternoon, it's the One-Eyed Biker here. Today we're finally going to be taking this Vulcan S Performance edition for a spin. We're going to do some slow roads, some twisty roads. We're going to go 70 miles an hour on the dual carriageway. But for those of you who might be familiar with the area at the moment, we're in Matlock Bath. It's a Sunday, it's a haven for bikers. If you're not familiar with the area, those that are nearby will know. There's not going to be many bikes around today, but let's go for a quick look down in the town before we take this for a good spin. Cue the intro. Hello everybody. Before we go any further, you clever cookies will know there's a bit of a continuity error here. The rest of the footage you've just seen was filmed in February, but we're now on May Bank holiday in the later the month. For those of you that aren't aware what's going on in Britain at the moment, because you're not from around these parts, we're still in kind of semi-lockdown where it's okay to go out as long as you're not really interacting with anyone within 2 meters. So you can basically go out for a ride with your mates on your bikes, but you can't go see your mom. A little bit of a weird time. So, as I was saying earlier on in the video, Matlock Bath's a bit of a mecca for motorcyclists, and as you can see, today's no different on this bank holiday Monday. Everyone's been really good, respecting social distancing, which is great, and it seems to be that there's a really good turnout of bikes. This place is often known as the seaside without the sea locally, because you've got amusements in that building in front of us there. You've got the Old Town Spa as well. There's coin slot machines, there's chip shops, there's everything. And as you can see, it's a place that really drags the visitors out on a nice day like today, including lots of motorcyclists and cyclists. There we go, and another one. So, this is the main drag. It's actually the A6 that runs through the Peak District, so in general it's actually quite a busy road. But there is plenty of parking for cars if you're not coming up here on your bike. But as you can see, a hell of a lot of people do. I've actually just walked past the Vulcan S, which we're riding today, but just wanted to show you a few more bikes and then we'll hop on it. I'm going to cross over in a second when I get a chance. Nice Triumph there. Another one. There we go, I'm going to quickly nip across. Whoops. Right, as we can just see, peeking in front of that MG there, we've got the Vulcan S, which we're going out on today. So, I'm just going to start the engine up and I'll talk a little bit about the bike while it's warming up. So, this one in particular, it is the performance model, which means for an extra 700 quid you get over, sorry, 750 pounds, you get over £1,000 worth of accessories before fitting charge fitted to the bike when you pick it up brand new, which includes the Cafe Racer screen on the front there and also the Arrow Performance exhaust on the side. If you want to see a little bit more detail in the bodywork and everything, if you go to the preview video for this one on my channel, you'll be able to see. So we're actually going left behind us, but because it's a busy road, we'll be going up the road and then turning round. Here we go, quickly nip out in front of this Ferrari. So away we go. Just as we go down here, I'm just going to talk briefly a little bit more about the performance pack bits. There's also cafe packs, there's all sorts. Great ways to personalise your bike straight out the shop. So as I say, you've got this Cafe Racer screen here. It isn't the tallest thing, it's mainly for styling, to be honest. I'm 6'2" and I tend to find the wind hits me off my chest basically with this. But it's still nice, it looks good. And as you can hear, we've got the Arrow exhaust blubbing away. It cracks and pops, it's nice and noisy, but not too noisy that it's going to scare your neighbours off. So, I'm just going to do a little bit of a U-turn here. You'll be able to see actually as well how nimble this bike is. Right, I don't know where this guy's going, but he doesn't like wipers. There we go, so even though it's quite a long bike, it does feel really nimble. There we go, it's nice jets letting us out. Because the weight's quite low down in it, with it being a mid-sized cruiser, it does mean that you have got that little bit of manoeuvrability to it, and it isn't a heavy bike. What Kawasaki's done, because they've put their flat twin cylinder engine in here that's water cooled, it's a lot lighter than a lot of big cruisers, because basically you don't need a big engine to power the thing along at a sensible speed. Whereas with a lot of big air-cooled cruisers, you have to have, quite a large cc output on it. This is only a 650cc bike and emits the same sort of power as those. So you tend to find as well, compared to the big cruisers, it can keep up with pretty much anything, mainly because you've got the power to weight ratio on it. One thing this does do as well, this bike, is it feels really, really stable at low speeds. Even newer riders would appreciate this. I've had it moving along in traffic before, indicating 0 miles an hour, and it still feels steady. So as we go along on this journey, we're going to drive south along the A6 and we're going to basically head towards Nottingham. We're going to take in a few different kind of speed roads, including some 70s, some twisty bits, some villages, all sorts. It will give you a good idea of what actually this bike is like to live with. Now when we're looking at the bikes in the marketplace that are in the mid-side cruisers, in the UK, the two other ones really with the water-cooled engines that you need to be looking at. You've got the Rebel from Honda, which is 500cc. It is a cheaper bike. Spec wise it's quite similar as it comes out of the box, but obviously it is a little bit slower, but you can drive it as standard on an A2 licence. You've then got this bike, which is a little bit more money, about £800 more out the box for a standard one at £6,500. You can get it down tuned to drive on an A2 licence, but obviously most people don't, because you've got your big bike licence. And yeah, so you've got a similar kind of equipment level, but you've got a fair bit more poke and speed in it. And then slightly above it in the price range, you've got the Harley Street 750, which is a fair jump in price, but doesn't quite have as much standard equipment as this bike, and it's also on power to weight ratio not as good. So this bike's actually the quickest out of the three of them. Personally, out of the three, I prefer this one, but I'll show you why as we go along. Now with this bike, some people struggle to categorise it, because effectively some people see it as a Japanese job at trying to make a sports bike into a cruiser, and does it work, does it not? I think the thing is that you have to learn with this bike is that you need to not try and pigeonhole it to one thing. It's certainly a bike of two personalities. Because of how the bike's been tuned for the Vulcan S compared to its other applications, there's a little bit more torque lower down, so it has that kind of characteristic of driving like a cruiser. However, you've still got all that power at the top end, so you can blub along riding it like a cruiser and it'll be fine. You sit up nice and upright and it's cool. It'll also behave like a sports bike if you want it to as well. Once you start to lean over the handlebars a bit, you start to get a little bit more feedback from the bike, and it starts to talk to you a little bit more, and basically it gives you all the confidence you want to apply the thing into corners. And the bike's also got a good turn of speed for its size as well. I mean, even just running along at a low revs here, we're just going to go up to 50 and fourth. It'll pull even at that point nicely in the rev range without any effort at all really, and it sounds beautiful. It's a 6-speed gearbox on this bike, nice and easy, nice and direct, gives you lots of confidence. One thing it does do as well, which some of the more modern Kawasaki's are doing now, if you are in, basically you stop the bike and then slot down into first, it won't let you slot straight up into second if the bike's stationary, ensuring you can always secure neutral without having to flip-flop between first and second several times. But yeah, certainly one thing, with the way this bike rides and applies itself, it certainly gives plenty of pleasure to the ears, to the ride and everything. It's such a nice bike to ride, nice and simple. You point it, it'll go there. One of the bits of feedback that many journalists have given who have rode this bike is that it can feel a bit sloppy at the back end. But guys, you're being really picky. It is a cruiser, so it is always going to have that slight damper feel at the back. However, I've been riding this bike quite a while now, and there's never a point where that characteristic leads to you losing confidence in how it feels going through the bends or anything. You've also got preload on it, and to be honest, I have had a little bit of a mess around with it, and you can slightly tune it for your size. Now, one thing as well that makes this bike pretty much unique in the marketplace at the moment is that you can get it straight out the shop, brand new, with various different seat, foot peg and handlebar settings to make it size for you. Kawasaki's are notoriously known for being suitable for small people. This one's no different, but I'm 6'2", and I'm absolutely fine on this bike. I've got the standard seat on this one. There is a seat that makes it further reach and also closer reach. I've also got the standard handlebars on here as well, which are the furthest reach. There are two that will come closer to you as well. And then with the foot pegs, I've got them on the middle setting, and they're absolutely fine. So, you know, you could get away with being a little bit bigger than me and being really comfortable on this bike. But also, if you're a fair bit shorter, it's ideal as well. The problem is with many bikes of this kind of category, you tend to find that they can only be suitable for small people, unless, you know, you want to look like a great big gorilla riding it. We're just winding through the Peak District here. Absolutely beautiful day today. Just to give you an idea on riding conditions, it's about 22, 23 degrees today. It's nice and still, so there's no wind, roads are dry and everything, so perfect really. As we look across the handlebars here, you can see on this side we've got the lights, we've also got the indicators and the horn. We've got Oxford heated grips on this bike, which are obviously an extra. We've got quad lock. There's an extra video about that on my channel, which is obviously an extra. And you'll just notice tucked there next to the rev counter, you've got a power outlet as well. That's about a £50 or £60 option from the dealer. I got it spec'd on the bike at brand new. Just basically I thought I might need it at some point, so I just thought, you know, I'll get it just in case. I'm glad I did, because I've put the phone cradle on it since. On the other side there you've got your kill switch and also your starter. Really good mirrors on this bike. They're not the prettiest thing, to be honest, but functionality wise they're fantastic. I've got quite wide shoulders, and as you can see I've got really good view behind me. Very comforting as they taper out in size as well towards the edge when you're on things like dual carriageways. There's two ways, as I say, you can ride this bike. You can ride it as a cruiser or ride it like a sports bike. If you want to sit there higher up in the rev range, the bike's more than happy to, and it'll still please you audibly. There's plenty of torque. Oh, bit of a bang there. We like to hear that. You'll be pleased to know, if you like noisy exhaust, we're going to go to some bridges soon as well, so you'll get a real idea of the oral experience from this bike. Kawasaki's marketing has aimed this bike a lot at new riders and females. Reason being is because it's not a heavy bike and it's easy to handle. However, talking to the guys at Derby Kawasaki, they actually find that they get a lot of people either changing from a sports bike to something like this, for something that's a little bit more easy for commuting, however can still give the fun at the weekends. And you've also got the people who downgrade into it from when they've decided they don't want to crotch rock it anymore, and they don't want to be leaning over the handlebars and getting shoulder and wrist ache, but they still want something that's going to give them performance and put a smile on the face. It really is a bike for everyone. Obviously Kawasaki as a manufacturer, you know, to get your marketing message across successfully, you have to have a target audience, you know, to direct a message and get impact. But really, this is something that anybody of any ability would enjoy riding. Don't get me wrong, when you're used to riding something like more of a sports bike position, it does feel weird getting your feet forward for the first time, and remembering when you lift your legs up that you're not going straight down or slightly behind you, you're going slightly in front of you. But I tell you what, it feels fantastic. If you've not done it before, it's well worth trying. This bike's like riding a fast and comfy and fun armchair. There's a few people out there which complain about the seat comfort on this bike, but I'll be honest, I've not really had any issues with it. It's got a couple of cyclists up here. Okay, he's not waiting. On the gear change as well, and also the brake lever, you've also got a variable adjuster as well, so you can suit it for your grip. It's all these little things that make this bike slightly better spec than its other rivals out there, and great value for money. Not really sure what this guy's slowing down for. It's 40 and we were doing 40, but there we go. Something that a lot of newer riders need as well is confidence in turning corners. I mean, this is quite a nice 90-degree slow one. The bike still instills you the confidence to lean even at this kind of speed and feel stable. There's a couple of brick walls running alongside us now, so we get a little bit more noise from that Arrow exhaust. I mean, the standard bike sounds great. There's loads of videos here on YouTube with the bikes with standard exhausts on, but personally, well worth the money this exhaust is. It does release a few extra horsepower out of the bike as well, and pound for pound on the noise value is fantastic. I mean, listen to it as we go through here. Absolutely fantastic. The thing is, sometimes as well, when you have noisy pipes on a bike and you ride it regular, it can get a bit drony after a while, but I don't know whether it's because the exhaust is low down on this bike or because it's not a massive engine on this thing. It doesn't get tiresome eventually at all. But as I say, it's loud, but it's loud enough that it makes you excited, it gives you that fuzzy feeling, but not quite enough for your neighbours to put pen to paper to the council. Got another bridge coming up shortly, I think, and I'll do it. I'll do the same thing, but a little bit higher in the rev range, so you can hear a little bit of a scream out of it as well. Ooh, nice Mark II Escort there. There we go. You don't see them every day, do you? Just to give you an idea on costs as well, because it's a reasonably smaller engine bike, the insurance isn't too bad on this neither. You've also got fuel costs which are low with it being a smaller capacity engine. I mean, I've been driving this one for a while, and I don't ride it like an old lady, and I don't ride it like an idiot. And well, at the moment, since its last reset, according to the display now, it's doing 70 miles to the gallon. But normally, I tend to get mid 60s, low 60s out of it, to be honest. So it's not an expensive bike to run at all. But yeah, so easy to ride, just point and shoot. The bike gives so much confidence, it's unreal. Really don't know what these guys are complaining about the waggly back end. Really don't. Look at them. Little BMW 9T there as well. Oh, I do fancy having a ride on one of them at some point. They look a beautiful bit of kit, bit on my price range, but there we go. Unfortunately, the roads are a little bit busier than I was expecting, with us being still in lockdown light at the moment, but there we go. There will be a bit further up where we can do 60 again, and also a bit of dual carriageway as well, where we'll get the bike up to motorway speeds. Just touching back on accessories as we go up here as well. Obviously there's the packs that come. This one's got the performance pack on, there's the cafe pack. I'm sure there's another one which I can't think of now off the top of my head. There's a lot of aftermarket parts available for these anyway, so I mean, I've seen a few of these about now and you never see one the same. I've shown you the accessories on these. I also forgot to mention as well, I've got the engine guards on here as well, mainly because of the paintwork on this bike, because if I do have a mistake, drop it in the garage or something like that, it's going to be a bugger to get that tank right. So it's kind of there for sensible reasons really, but to be fair, once I fitted them, they actually look pretty good. Oh yes. So as we just dive through here, beautiful, sounds great. But if you want to do that kind of acceleration, doing a lower gear like you would do in a sports bike, it's up for that as well. There we are, a little jink as well. Go back down to 30 for a bit. Take it steady around here because the road surface is absolutely crap. Here we go, I think we're in Codnor now, in Derbyshire. Just going back to the accessories as well, one thing that's very popular on these is a tail tidy. One thing you'll find once you own it is that if you want to get a axle stand under the back wheel, the rear number plate's right in the bloody way. So it's quite popular for people to get a tail tidy on. There's some really smart ones out there. R&G do a really nice one, but yeah, it's something worth considering at some point, especially if you're having to get the bike up on your own at some point to do the chain, with this bike not featuring a centre stand. What we've got going on down here, I think we've got some temporary lights actually, so this gives me the perfect opportunity just to go through the display with you. So as you can see there in the middle, we've got a nice clear rev counter all the way from 0 up to 12,000. Little needle jumps up when you do that. We've also got the indicators, neutral, and also your full beam there as well. On the display we've got the gear indicator, fuel at the bottom, speed there, the big number, we've got a clock, and then we've got display here which will change as well depending on what you want it to do. Just going to bob the bike in neutral. So basically you press the button at the side, at the moment it's showing average MPG. We've got the range there, 79. We've got the odometer, just over 1,000 miles. We've got a trip counter, so you've got trip A, trip B, and then you've got your live miles per gallon as well, and your average there. But yeah, basically just to reset any of them, just in case holding that button there from memory. Maybe it's the other side actually. There we go. Ta-da! Here we go. Fingers crossed we'll get through in one go. Tell you what, it's the perfect day for riding today. Absolutely beautiful. Looks like we're going to be in the next lot through the lights by the looks of it. As you can see, indicated 0 on the speedo, and it's still really stable. Here we go, a couple of nice bikes coming up. Oh, a tricycle! Look at that! I don't know whether anyone's seen them on the internet, but there's somebody who makes tricycle versions of these. Not my cup of tea personally, but there we go. Right, and we're off again. And we've got another... oh, it's gone to green now. I came through these lights earlier the other way, and it was a bloody nightmare because they're not synced at all with this main junction. But just going again back to the personalisation of these bikes and all these looking different, the nice thing is that Kawasaki do a different colour range each year. Sometimes they keep some, sometimes they drop them, and they tend to do this across the whole range, to be honest. And this colour of this bike, they call it the green fog, most of the dealers do. I think it's called metallic spark green in the guide. This is a new colour for 2020 in the UK. I think it's available over most of Europe, but I know already from some feedback from the last video, you guys in the US aren't seeing this colour yet. Fingers crossed you'll get it next year, but it's absolutely beautiful. And this again adds to the personalisation, because once the colour's been on the bike for a year, or maybe 2 if you're lucky, it's gone again. I mean, you tend to see as well there's some lovely blues out there on the older Vulcans that look absolutely fantastic, and then over in the US you guys get some more kind of pastel-y colours as well, so there really is something that'll float most people's boat. At the moment in this year's range you've got completely black, you've got this colour scheme, and then from memory you've got a black with some kind of like bronze striping on. Looks very much like the old John Player Lotuses, the old Formula 1 cars. It's a beautiful livery. I was almost tied between getting that and this, but personally I think the green fog looks absolutely fantastic on this bike. So from memory, the black's a free of charge colour, whereas the other two you have to pay a metallic paint charge. So all in all, the bike, I think the retail price standard on these is about £6,500, but by the time you put on the performance pack and then you put on the colour, I think it's basically bang on another £1,000 on top of it. Still, when you look at the new bikes you can get out there for £7,500, it's a real good deal. Kawasaki bikes as well come standard with 2 years warranty on them. You can upgrade to 4 years warranty. It's always nice to have that bit of peace of mind, and also if you choose to sell it after that 2nd year but before its 4th year, it is transferable, and you know, you've got something that adds a bit of value to the bike as well to help with its resale as well. Looking at it, these things hold the resale value really well anyway, but you know, every little helps, and if it gives a bit of peace of mind, it's always nice, isn't it? I mean, the engine on these is pretty bomb proof, even though the bike's been out now since 2015, the Vulcan S model, so it's tried and tested. I think the only thing they've actually changed on the spec of this bike, equipment wise, since is, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, they integrated the gear indicator on there. Some do have an accessory of a gear indicator there, but it does come standard on the bike for the last couple of years. So that's something to look out for if you're looking for a used one of these, and a gear shifter is important. Don't just assume it's got the indicator on, because if it's a slightly older bike it won't. So we're just leaving Codner now. We're about to head towards the dual carriageway, which goes past Eastwood towards the M1. This guy seems to be taking his time a bit, so if we get the opportunity we'll nip past him, as long as it's safe and legal to do so. It's quite quiet in 6th gear, around 40 mile an hour. Right, our opportunities here if it's going to be anywhere. Okay, nice one mate, speed up as I try and go by you. As you can see anyway, even though the gentleman who decided he was going to stay 10 miles an hour below the speed limit everywhere until I decided to overtake him, even when someone decides they're going to speed up as you pass them, this bike's still got the legs to get you there safely before you reduce back down. There's certainly no getting in trouble in this bike anyway. Jesus Christ. About shat myself then. Don't know where he even came from. Ladies and gents, that's why you should always keep an eye on your mirrors. And that too, and that. So we're on the dual carriageway bit. So we're going to get the bike up to 70 mile an hour as it is now and take you for a run down here. There is a fair bit of wind on this bike because it has only got a tiny screen. But to be fair, I'm happy living with it. The bike feels stable. Even if there is any crosswinds or you pass trucks in this bike, it still feels stable. With it not having any major fairings, all the turbulence blows through it rather than against it, which is fantastic. Gives you a real nice, comfortable experience, especially if you're going on a long journey, as long as you're cool with the wind blowing in your face, which I don't mind, to be honest. On a day like this, it's really refreshing. It's all blowing through my suit and keeping me nice and cool. As you can see, it sits happily there at just over 5,000 revs at 70 mile an hour, so the bike's not overly labouring too hard, and it's also at a point where if you need a bit of torque out the engine, it's there ready to be called on without having to knock it down a gear or two. and it holds a constant speed beautifully. You'll also notice just on the display now, if you can see, just to the left of the clock, there's something that looks like a little fidget spinner at the top corner there. That's the eco light. That's basically to tell you you're driving in a fuel efficient way, and Greta Thunberg won't come round and knock on your door and be upset with you. Now, one of the best things about going this bike, other than going quick on it, is actually slowing down, because the noise on overrun from this exhaust, listen to that. There's a real good boom from it, and it ain't that Mustang in front. Right, we're getting towards the end of the video now, ladies and gentlemen. What I'm going to do though, I'm just going to take you through a little village not too far from here called Cossall. There's a lot of high walls in there, so you get a noise of what the bike sounds like in an urban area, but there's also quite a few tight 90-degree turns. So you'll get to see as well how nimble the bike is at low speed, as well as, you know, your 40, 50, 60 mile an hour stuff that we've already been doing. So as you can see as well, just driving along at 30 mile an hour, it's a nice civilised bike, and it just gives a lovely blub 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 just as you're cruising along. It interrupts conversations like that. Now, just to let you know guys, I've got quite a few of the bits and pieces planned at the moment. I'm going to see a guy soon who's got loads of older Japanese bikes from the 90s and 80s, and we're going to go see him, take a few bits for a ride, talk about the history of the bikes, have a look at his collection. We've also got lined up a test drive on the new Suzuki V-Strom 1050 XT, brand new bike to the market, was launched just as Britain was locking down basically, so I don't think anyone's really had a chance to ride on it. So it's a case of, I was hoping to have one of the first rides on it when it was launched in the UK and bring it to you, but obviously that's all on hold at the moment, but fingers crossed I'll be back with that in the next couple of weeks. Right, so we're just going to turn here, take you through the village of Cossall. Oh, another nice Triumph. Still 30 up here. This will also give you an idea of what the bike's like on bumps as well. Don't get me wrong, because the position you're sat in with, you know, forward controls on this bike, you do feel it a bit more than a sports bike, because you can't, you know, lift your arse off the seat as much, but it's not too bad. As you can hear as well, the bike's lovely and noisy around here with these brick walls high up. Little pop there. we go, and it leans beautifully through the slow stuff like this. Loads of confidence. First gear job of this one. The throttle on this bike is a little bit bitey when you come in from zero throttle to a little bit. A lot of bikes with electronic ignition are, but it's just something to be wary of. Right, I'm going to finish off here with a little bit of a 60 bit before we pull over and have one last look at the bike. I'm not going to go too quick though, because the road surface is absolutely shocking down here, and any bike gets really skittish. And there's also loads of muck off the fields down here too. And people tend to drive in the middle, which is nice of them. I don't know whether you can tell, but the road surface is so loose up here. Right, let's stick the bike in here. We'll have one last look round. So there we go. As I just mentioned, if I try and flip it up into neutral now, push it all the way up, there we go. It won't go any further than that. So there we have it, the Kawasaki Vulcan S. Would I buy one? Yes I would, because I did. Fantastic all-round bike. If you want something to lay back on, it'll do the job. If you want something to have a bit of fun on at the weekends, it'll do that job too. Cheap to run? Yes. Problematic? No, because it's a Kawasaki, so it shouldn't be. Does it look cool? In my opinion, yes. Some people think it's trying too hard. Personally, I don't think it is. I don't think it's trying to be anything too hard, and that's its beauty in it. You've got the nice frame there of the frame that it shares with the Versys. So it has got a sports bike look to it. You've got the exposed spring there as well, which is a bit more cruiserish. But I don't think it's trying too hard to be anything other than just be itself. It has got sports bike stuff, it has got cruiser stuff, and it's fine sitting there in the middle. So, I hope you enjoyed the review. If you've got any questions, stick them in the comments below. I'll come round to them and I'll answer them for you. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll be back with more soon.